If you dream of your motorcycle, if your day isn't complete without some time in the saddle, if all you need is the open road and a full tank of gas, well, you've come to the right place, because this is Throttled, and it's starting now. Here is your host, Kevin McKinney.
Hello, welcome back to Throttled, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you're all doing well, and you've had a great, we're recording this a day after the 4th of July, so that would make it the 5th. For those of us in the States, I hope you had a great celebration and that everything went well. Unfortunately, we're getting some reports in the live chat that may not be the case, but we'll check up on that maybe later. So tonight we got a pretty full house. Let's see. I see Larry's there and Chris is there. And that strange man in the corner. Oh, that's Tom. Okay, so got everybody here. How are you doing, gentlemen?
Chris, what are you doing?
I am doing very well, gentlemen. How about yourself? How about you, Tom? How are you doing?
I am doing great. This is as we were talking pre-show, the final night of my my week's vacation. I've been off work, so first time this year that I've taken a week off, and it was great. So here's to the end of vacation.
Well, I'm glad you had a good one, but condolences on the end of vacation.
Yeah. Larry doesn't know about or doesn't remember that back to work.
I don't.
Yes.
It's a distant memory, and if you're feeling like you don't want to go back to work, it's time to retire.
I have that feeling, but unfortunately, the bank account doesn't quite agree with that.
Yeah, that's the problem. That is the problem. Yeah. So I'm doing good. Did a couple of rides this week that we'll talk about, and things are okay around here. So.
Well, Larry, why don't you go ahead and just dive on into talking about it?
Okay, so I did a couple rides this week, and actually, I've been getting bored with the local rides that I've been doing. So I earlier this week, what was it on? Excuse me, it was on Tuesday or Wednesday, I think. I ventured further afield, and so I went up the coast. And I went up to Tamales, the town of Tamales, and I turned onto the Tamales Petaluma Road, and I then turned off at the Caliente Valley Road and went past the Lagunas Reservoir and into the town of Lagunas. This was, and then from there I meandered my way. This was a beautiful ride through farmland up here, and there was just nobody on the road. I was like for 15 miles, I was practically the only vehicle on the road. It was great, and then I went on to Hicks Valley Road, which took me back to my more local environment, and from thence I came home. It was about I would say about a 125-mile ride, and it was just beautiful. So that I did early in the week, and then today I just felt I had an itch to get out again, so I did the more local ride, the Marshall Petaluma Road that I've talked about before, and that was about a 2-hour ride, and about 75 miles round trip. And again, it was beautiful, and there was also virtually nobody on the Marshall Petaluma Road. There were a lot of people on Highway 1, but it's still beautiful and cool because it's getting hot in the Central Valley here, but cool along the coast. So I had a couple of beautiful rides this week, and I'm a happy camper. How about you guys? Tom, what did you do?
Well, as I said, vacation, but it was not a motorcycle vacation. Drive, but a driving one, lots of miles. So drove from Atlanta up to Iowa City, Iowa, where my son lives and is going to graduate school up there. So went to go visit him. So the only thing I did motorcycle related was one afternoon. They've got a large dealership there, so went and visited them, and it's a big multi-line. I had never seen this many lines in or this combination. So they had Honda, Kawasaki, Yamaha, BMW, and Triumph all in one dealership. The curious thing, though, was that the three Japanese manufacturers limited stock, probably maybe 3-4 bikes of each brand. That was about it.
Really?
And then BMW, they had almost the entire line. So well over a dozen bikes, and the same for the Triumph. Had just about the entire lineup. So didn't have any gear, didn't do any test rides, but did sat on a bunch. God, you were going to ask?
Well, yeah, I was just wondering why there were so few of the Japanese bikes. Were they selling them, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was just, and I really didn't think about that until afterwards. It's not something that I noticed when I was there, but I guess afterwards I kind of realized that they didn't really, because it was 2 floors. So upstairs was BMW and Triumph, and downstairs was the 3 Japanese manufacturers. Plus, they seem to do a huge business in side by side. So half their showroom floor downstairs was side by sides, 4-wheelers. Big clothing selection though, and gear selection. So it was really, it seems like a nice dealership. I didn't see too many others up there. So just spent an hour or so sitting on all kinds of different bikes. Got to see the new BMW 900. I think the one that I saw was the R or the XR. Disappointed in it. They did a very similar styling that KTM does with the GT, where it's the top of the tank flares out quite a bit in a drastic manner. So that means for those that are not vertically challenged, you put your feet on the pegs and you can't get your knees underneath the flare of the tank.
Really?
So at least for me, unless I lowered the pegs by 1.5 inches, there's no way to get my knees under in the cutouts of the tank. So found the same thing on the KTM 1290 GT. So that was one of my disappointments. The other one was, I think I had talked about the Triumph Speed Twin. I've been wanting to test ride that bike because a couple of years ago I rode the Bonneville T120 and really liked that. Sat on the Speed Twin, and again disappointed by the seating position. So seating position was good, but I guess the orientation for that bike is supposed to be more sporty in nature. And so as compared with the standard Bonneville, your pegs are raised about 1.5 to 2 inches and set back about 2 to 3 inches. So your legs are at a fairly severe angle when you're sitting on the bike. So it's a fairly aggressive seating position. Short distance wise, probably wouldn't be bad, but not as comfortable as I would have liked. Did not like that one either. The surprise came, they had a couple of 1200 Scramblers, Triumphs, sat on those. Those were very comfortable to sit on. And Kevin, you're our dirt bike guy. I don't know whether you've sat on one at all, but for a tallish person, it is a nice fit. It's not as low as like a Ducati Scrambler. It definitely sits up higher, has more travel. They had an XC and an upper end XE version there that just had a higher suspension to it. I was really surprised that I liked the seating position and the layout of that bike and just how it fit in general. So that was my little adventure of playing with the bikes there.
Be great to test ride that, huh?
It would. that will be in the future. I still want to test ride the Speed Twin, but as we talked about before, Triumph dealerships are far and few between, and decreasing, at least in the Atlanta area. So I think there's one left, and I just have to keep watching to see whenever they do a demo day.
Yeah.
So that was my week. A lot of miles in the car, 0 on two wheels. Other than today, bicycling. That's about it, just to get some exercise. But yeah, a lot of wheel time today. So for this week.
What about you, Chris?
Yeah, so it was good. Jan
Chris
and I.
or Kevin?
Yep. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it was good. Jan and I got out yesterday for a little bit of a ride. It's been getting pretty hot and humid on Long Island, so we decided to head out, fairly early in the morning, just right after breakfast, which was kind of nice. Plus, she's been wanting to get more comfortable on riding on, higher volume roadways like parkways, expressways, things like that. So she figured if we got out a little bit earlier in the day, it'd be a little bit less volume. So that worked out really nice. And the other thing, too, is what's that? You're breaking up there a little bit. She's been wanting to work up getting over her concern or fear about riding over bridges and stuff like that. So that's one of the problems we face being on Long Island. If you want to go someplace other than Long Island, it's either a ferry, which we've done, or a bridge. That's pretty much your options for getting off, unless you can afford a helicopter or something like that. So she mustered up the courage, and actually we ended up riding basically the longest bridge in the Long Island area. So that was kind of cool. She was happy with that accomplishment. So with that, the next thing will be to tackle. This is a bridge that actually goes to the Barrier Islands on the South Shore of Long Island. So the next thing will be to tackle one of the bridges in New York City. And once she gets comfortable with that, then that definitely, opens up the options for riding, doing weekend trips and stuff like that. I also got a chance to try out. I finally got the Senna. I think a couple shows ago I had mentioned I was trying to decide between the Senna 50S and the 50R. I decided to go with the S, and I got that installed a couple days ago. So I got to try that out yesterday on the bike on the Arai helmet. So that worked out really well. So really happy with that. A lot of nice features. So it was cool to kind of test that out. So yeah, it was good. No riding today, unfortunately. This coming week, Friday, I've got the Riders Academy up at New York Safety Track. So it's basically like a full day of instruction in a small group, with a coach. So really looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, we're looking forward to hearing about that.
So
Yeah.
I got to ask, why the S over the R?
Yeah, good question. It actually honestly took me quite a bit to decide, a bit of time to decide which way to go.
Can you remind us which one switch?
Ultimately, sure. And it's funny because when we talked about it, I think I was talking about the S and the C. There is no 50C. I was thinking C was for compact. So the R is the slimline, the compact one. So basically, they're the same price. The advantage of the R is that it is fairly slimline. Sits closer to the helmet. It's got a little bit less battery life. What they say in the manual, right? And I'm sure your miles may vary, kind of thing. But it says on the R, I think it's 8 hours. Whatever. It's like 8 hours and 13 hours, and the S is a little bit better, right? On the charge time, I guess it's got a larger battery in it. But the main difference in features is the reason I decided to go with the S is it's a clamp. Well, one of the mounting options. There's various mounting options, but the main one is a clamp that fits up, in the helmet shell, and then the center unit actually clicks in, so it's removable. So you've got the wires running directly from that clamp, to the microphone, whatever your choice of microphone, either the dime or there's two different boom microphones, and to the speakers. With the R, basically you have it's a lighter weight clamp. It's a plastic clamp that slides up on the shell, but you basically glue the unit to that clamp. So like one of my concerns was this is my helmet for track riding, right? So if I go to a track that says you can't have a comm system on your helmet, I want it to be able to remove it easily. With the R, although it is more slimline and there's probably advantages for that, you'd actually would have to pull the whole thing off the helmet and then undo all the wiring and pull everything out. Where with the S, you just push a button and it pops off. It leaves the clamp, which hopefully no one's going to be concerned about. And then there's a couple other things too, is because you've got this base unit with the S that the unit clips into, there's a couple connections there. I don't think I'm going to use it, but if you wanted to, you can connect like an external audio source There's one for an audio source. I forget what the other one is for. I don't know if it's for an additional microphone or some other additional input. So there's basically more features with the S. So I figured for the same price, let me go that route.
I'm wondering if they've got it set up, and I'm just totally spitballing. Since GoPros aren't really making it easy to integrate sound in their devices.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they have it set up to where you can plug your GoPro into your Sena directly, and then
Makes
all
sense.
the audio from your Sena gets sent to your GoPro. I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing that, just because they used to have the little backpack that Sena actually developed for the GoPro that GoPro blocked them from doing and with future in the newer models. So I'm thinking that could be what they're doing is like, hey, here's an extra out that'll take your mic information and anything going on in the chat and send it out. You might want to look that up and see, because that would be pretty cool if you can replace, especially since, what is it, a USB-C for the mic to go into the GoPro now? I mean, it's not an audio jack. So
that's a good
they got
question.
that little USB-C thing and that little stinking pack that they do.
Yeah, I have an older GoPro. I think it's a Hero 5.
Okay.
So I'm not. I don't have all the latest cool features, but actually, I'm just pulling up the 50S here. I want to see if you're right about that. That would make sense. That would be really cool, though, if that was.
And I mean, I'm guessing. I mean, if I was in Senna's shoes, knowing that a lot of people, I won't say vast majority, but a lot of people that use my product also use it with GoPros, that would be an easy way to resolve that, just to handle the situation.
Right. Yep.
Anyway,
that's the other thing.
Unless of course, they wanted to sell more of the Sena 10. What is it? C, that is the integrated video and communicator all in one.
Yeah. The other thing the S has, I didn't play with it much, and it may be more of a gimmick than anything, is this ambient mode. So there's a button you can hit. So the idea is, like, if you're at a gas station, you turn on the ambient mode. There's evidently an external mic to make it easier to hear. I guess, like, if you're dealing with a gas station attendant or something like that, you've got your full face on. So
that is the one feature I miss, because I still have the 20S on my street helmet, and I've got the Cardo on my ADV helmet, and thinking about switching them. But the one thing I miss is that ambient mode, because in the woods, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I use it a lot. I mean, you're always at a gas station, somebody says something, it's just like, huh?
Yep.
What?
Exactly.
I got earplugs in and the helmet on.
Yeah, I mean, I usually have that problem at stoplights and stuff. Like, I'm at a traffic light and someone pulls up alongside and they're trying to talk to me, and I've usually got my music on. So it would be nice, because the ambient mode, it turns down the volume of the music or whatever so you can hear. So I'll report back when I get a chance to actually use the feature.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that you made a decision and you seemingly are happy with it, which is
so far so good.
Which is more important than anything else. All right. Well, I guess I'm left if you're done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's see. Going back to the previous weekend, the weekend we didn't have a show, I taught a class, and ended up being a very unique class. We had 6 scheduled. 3 showed up. One of those didn't quite make it to the second day, and so we only had 2 the last day, and these 2 were exceptional riders already. So and the funny thing is they figured out, as soon as we're ready, we'll get going. So they showed up at 7. We got everything ready in 15 minutes and started class that day at 7:15.
So they don't cancel your class if you've got like less than 4 or 6 students?
Not if you're not. I mean, with the Harley dealers, the way it is right now, it's specifically, okay, there's a caveat to everything I'm about to say, but the Harley dealer that we were at the time. You know, both coaches traveled. I traveled an hour. The other coach traveled at 3 hours. We
Wow.
get there. Now, he came in a day early, right? Just to mess around. He had nothing else to do. But he's already there. I'm there. I'm doing the classroom portion. He's just going to do the range portion. And we only had 3 show up. It's supposed to be 6, and then earlier in the day they found out it was going to be 5, and then another woman, the other 2 didn't show up. So with that, it ended up being 3, and they're not going to cancel the class. I mean, the students are there. We're there.
Yeah, at that point. Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, if it would have been they had prior knowledge, they would have canceled class. And they've done that before. They've rearranged and moved people and everything. They actually had moved somebody into this class when somebody else called, and that guy was actually there. Anyway, so we had 2, and we ended up being done with the entire class by like 11:30 noon. Now, this is insane. Normally, 3:30, you if you're out of there at 3:30, that is a quick, speedy everything. But these guys would knock.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd set up an exercise and they'd run it like several times, and it's just the 2 of them, and so they're just rocking and rolling, and like, look at they've got it. You know, I mean, that would have passed the exam. Every time he's run it, he would have passed the exam. You know, and so it's like, okay, well, how much is, you know, it's like, and the funny thing is about when you really read into a lot of what we do in these courses, each thing has a recommended time frame just to let everything map out. Now that time starts from the minute you start introducing the course to the minute the course is over. Mm-hmm. Now, in this situation, we're going through it, and normally we're having to repeat things. We're having to talk about, okay, let's talk about the path of travel. These guys just got it. There was no needing to walk, and they're like, hey, I mean, one guy ran out in the car. She's like, so I come here like this, I do this, I do this, I do this, and then I head down over there. Yep. He was like, got it. You know, it took him 20 seconds, and that's normally a multi-minute conversation. And that just kept happening through the whole day. You know, and we pre-stage a lot of the courses where we have cones and certain artifacts off range, but right there to where we're not always walking back and forth. So we had things set up to where we were setting them up pretty quick. And I mean, it went super fast. They did great on the test. I mean, there was only like one issue the entire test, and it was a minor thing. And afterwards, the guy was just like, I can't believe I put my foot down there. I didn't need to. I just needed to let off my clutch, and I'd have been fine. Pretty much. You know, I mean, they were literally coaching themselves by the end of the course, which as a coach, you're just thrilled with, right? Because they're able to self-diagnose, which means when they get onto the road, they're going to do the same thing. But so that course ends. I'm on my way home. Now, normally we don't have shows when I'm traveling because I'm not getting in till like, 6, 7 o'clock. I don't really know when I'm getting in. Normally it's right around 7:15 or so. By the time we get everything done, all the bikes put up and all this stuff, right? Not the case this time. And so things went really quick. Got on the road, heading home. Just so happens, though, that I was planning on leaving Monday night or Tuesday morning, Tuesday night really, to head down to spend some time at the beach, but I'm working from the beach, right? I'm not on vacation. My family's on vacation. They're going to go out on the beach. I'm going to stay up in the condo and work on the balcony. And so I just decided I might as well just go ahead and go down there instead of having to fit this into my busy work schedule because it was, just horribly busy, doing a full day at work, leaving here at 5 to make a 4.5 hour drive. It'd be a lot easier to leave now and take my time and everything. So I came home, took 30 minutes, threw a bunch of stuff into a bag, took off to the coast, and spent the coast down there. And I really debated riding down versus driving down. I lucked out because I drove down, and the reason I drove down is I was taking my work laptop and my personal laptop to try to publish some episodes. Now, one thing you may have noticed if you listen to this live, but Kevin, you didn't seem to manage to get any episodes posting. That's right, because if you take your laptop, you need to make sure you get the correct battery charger. So I turned it on, and it said, you need power, and it turned right back off on me. I was like, well, crap. So the best laid plans. But, yeah, and anyway, on my way down there, I hit a rainstorm that for about 30 minutes, no bridges, no overpasses, I couldn't see the hood of my truck. I could barely see the car in front of me with their lights on, braking. And I mean, it was really coming down hard. And the truck, I mean, the wind was blowing. I mean, it was really a lot of rain and a big storm in such a short amount of time. However, getting down there, I never got in the vehicle again until I left. So it's not like I go down there and ride a lot. It'd just been a good ride down and a good ride back. The ride back would have been great. We made good time. So kind of wish I had it, but that one 30-minute window, I was kind of like, man, I'm glad I am not riding right now, because if I would have pulled over, I don't know that I'd have been able to see the edge of the road. And I definitely know for sure that nobody behind me would have been able to see my little LED lights blinking off the side of the road and not get run over, because there were people that had pulled off on the side of the road just running down the shoulder of the road, but we were all going like 10 miles per hour on the interstate because of this, and it lasted for 30 minutes. So, it was a fortunate outcome there. But no riding other than the class. Interesting thing though, while we were at that dealership, it got sold.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so the owners just decided, because they own another motorcycle place way down the road from where they're at, and they decided, all I know is they didn't want to be in the Harley business anymore. They still want to be in the motorsports business, but not in the Harley business anymore. So they sold it to somebody who owns like 3 or 4 other Harley dealers. They own 2 more in Alabama, 1 in Georgia, 1 in North Carolina. And they have certain rules and regulations that they like to follow with their coaches. And we're still getting that information and how it will apply to us. Some of the limitations they place on their coaches about coaching at different places and stuff like that. And so it will be seen. It'll be interesting to see if I ever go back there or not. I don't have enough information to make a decision yet, but I'm not, leaning one way or another. I'm just kind of going to wait and see what they do. I've got 2 months before I'm supposed to be back in there, so I've got plenty of time to let that shake out and let everything hit the ground. But yeah, so that was my favorite dealership, and it got sold, and it was doing really well. So hopefully the new owners can keep it up. They chose a new name for it. I hate the name, but that's my personal opinion. Just because of the connotation it brings isn't necessarily, as from a rider coach standpoint, the best. Whatever.
Why? What's the name? Crash
Share.
dealership?
No, it's Hooligans Harley Davidson.
Oh.
And I'm like, guys, while, yeah, and they have a racing team, the Hooligans, that they sponsor, and
Right.
yeah.
And that's a class of racing, right? Hooligan racing is a class of racing.
Yeah, true.
Sure.
And so I'm just kind of, I'm like, okay, but from a rider coach standpoint, it sucks. It's like that's not really the image we want to be projecting out there, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but that's just my old man coming out in me, I guess. But that unfortunately, I had a great week of working at the beach. The only problem is I got all the stress of the working and none of the relaxation of the beach. But then I got all the stress of trying to make it there and back and unpacking and all that stuff. So it was nice like during the week, but like the last 2 days have been just kind of like, I need a vacation from my non-vacation. So, because I was in meetings the entire time. It wasn't like I somebody's like, I bet you're loving it. I'm just like, other than the view, I'm not really, nothing's changed. I was like, I'm talking to people all the time. Except now I got wet kids running behind me, giving me hugs and interrupting the meetings. So, all right. Let's dig on into some things we want to talk about. First off, joining the Throttled crew. Kevin was the last person, not me, but another Kevin, obviously. Kevin was the last person to join the Throttled crew. And if you would like to be our newest member, we would encourage you to go to throttledpodcast.com, scroll down to the bottom, click on the Patreon logo, and you can get signed up there. Now, couple things about that real quick. Patreon, due to new laws that are out there, was going to have to start charging sales tax per month depending on what you offered your patrons as a reward for joining up. And yeah. And so I decided to just nix all that. So as of right now, officially, you don't see the air quotes because I don't have a broadcast. Officially, there are no rewards or giveaways for joining the Throttle crew anymore. The sales tax thing just made it complicated, and then the amount of tax you're paying for what you got didn't make any sense. And from the way I understood it, it was, it really was a trouble. We've had people, sign up and drop off and sign up and drop off several times, right? Because of whatever they've got going on. Some of them are listening now. And every time they sign up, when they do that, they get hit with sales tax, even though they're not getting anything. That doesn't make any sense. And so I just decided that it was, if we do a giveaway to the Throttle crew and the patrons, it'll be handled off of the patron platform. And there are no guarantees about that. So I'm just going to say it like that. And that's about the best way I can handle the situation. I'm sorry for those new patrons coming on. If it keeps you from joining, we understand, but we would appreciate your support. And we already went through that process there. So, but anyway, everybody on the screen right now, and I know a lot of you are listening to this on podcast, can't see this. We really appreciate all that you do, all that you help out with the show. You keep the lights on and you keep the wheels turning in this place. All right, so let's get back to our regularly scheduled program.
Yeah, on the chat, Rodney mentioned something that's pretty disturbing, actually. He said that the BMW dealerships are around him, at any rate, are saying that they will not service bikes that they did not, BMW bikes they did not sell.
All right, so first off, that BMW dealership you're talking about,
is it just one dealership? Is it one dealership?
It's one dealership in our area. It is not well regarded over most of it's a necessary evil to get the bike you want. I'm not going to name their name because I may one day need to buy a bike from them. But
do tell.
There are several who do not really think fondly of them.
So this is a specific dealership's policy. It's not BMW.
Well, and I think BMW does not force you to do maintenance on other bikes. But to come and to hear about it, their maintenance department is just so overwhelmed that, they can't afford to take on anything that they don't feel like they need to do. It's almost really a way of punishing you for not buying your bike through them. That's at least my interpretation of how that reads for a lot of people. I don't know.
That's really weird. I mean, I've never found that. I do get my bike serviced at a dealership that I didn't buy the last one there. I've bought others through them, but at least never found that. Now, I do know that they ask you whether you bought the bike there or not, and they've got it in their computer system whether you bought it there or not. But I think it's more for, you get you may get scheduling better treatment or preferential treatment,
you get moved to the front of
and
the
they give
line.
you a little bit of a discount on the parts if you bought the bike there.
Well, I
But
know
I've
that
never heard anybody being turned away.
they used to sell Yamahas. I don't think they sell Yamahas anymore. At least they don't advertise that they do. I was actually in there the other day looking for a part for something, and I didn't see any. Actually, I saw very few motorcycles in there. But I do know that when I bought my Yamaha from someplace else, I went by there for a bike night, and the sales manager asked me, did I buy, it's like, oh, you bought that from someplace else? Because I was talking to him about one. I was like, yeah. And he was like, he made the mention of, well, too bad. I would have liked to, been able to service you and all that stuff. I mean, he was pretty much saying, don't bring it in here to get it serviced, because he was like, we would have been able to. I mean, he really got defensive about me buying the bike someplace else. But that defensiveness and the underhandedness is why I didn't buy from them.
Right.
Anyway,
Well, if they're overwhelmed with service demands, they should hire more mechanics.
they're not. They're not. That's the thing, is it's all smoke and mirrors with them.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, but like I said, they're the closest BMW dealer around. They're the closest Ducati dealer. Well, the only one and then without going like 2 or 3 hours away, right? I mean,
I have met guys at my local dealer in Marietta that have ridden from Central Alabama to get service.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
That says something right there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of people go to Chattanooga. I know a lot of people go to Atlanta.
Yeah, they're a good place.
Huntsville used to. I can't remember. Anyway, a lot of people go other places than that dealership. Anyway, I keep my mouth shut. All right, so let's dive into a topic real quick. We're 40 minutes into this hour-long show. We may not even get to a news article.
Oops.
It's okay. I mean, that's what we're chatty. We're excited to be all here.
Hey, we were off a week, so
Yeah.
what's
I
going
gotta get
on?
caught up with all the gossip. All right, so here's a question
what do you think?
that I posted out on Facebook. And I'm going to just read the quote as I put it. And this was a personal call for me, but you might be able to engage in with the other guys. But if you hear this and you want to write into us and give us some feedback on this, feedback at throttledpodcast.com or throttledpodcast.com. Go to the contact form or go to the Facebook page or Throttled Show, and Twitter at Throttled Show. And give us an answer. Anyway, I need some help from you guys. This fall, I'd like to take a trip. I don't know if I want a road or off-road trip. What suggestions do you have? Should I find a different off-road training class and take the 690 to it? Help me out where and what I should do. And I, of course, say this is of course assumes that it'll be safe to do so with COVID, so we don't need to mention that. It's understood.
You just did.
Yeah. So, well, I'm just saying that's it. All right. So outside of that, had a lot of great suggestions, already in the chat, of that, or in the comments of that particular comment and topic there. But yeah, so I'm looking for places to go. I've got, I potentially have spouse approved time away, within reason financially. And what do I want to do? I mean, there's a lot of opportunities here. So what, do you guys have any thoughts, or is there something that you guys have that you're wanting to do that you say you should try this with me?
I got two for you.
Go for it.
All right. September, BMW Riders Association rally is mid-September, 17th through the 20th in Waynesville, North Carolina. The motley crew you see behind me will be there. Much of the K1600 group that I ride with every year is going. So that's a potential. And there is, even if I plan on going to the rally like maybe one afternoon and the rest of the time riding around the North Carolina mountains.
So is it required to have a BMW? Because I'd hate to show you guys off on a KTM and a Yamaha.
No, not at all. Not at all. Wait, do that. Say that last part again. I missed. We always wait for all of our riders at the corners before we turn. The other is, I don't know if it's still on, but our friends over at our other podcast, Loud Pipes, is doing their get-together in October up in
Tellico Plains.
I think that's
Tellico Plains.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's another possibility for you. Again, great riding in the Tennessee, North Carolina area. I'm thinking about both those again, provided the things work out. The other one, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I have always wanted to ride the Natchez Trace Parkway.
Oh, the Natchez?
Have you ever done that, right? Yeah.
I haven't yet.
So it's probably, very similar to the Blue Ridge Parkway. It's probably a 2-day ride end to end. If you go all the way down to, I think it's Jackson, Mississippi that it starts. Or you could pick it up halfway through and head up to Nashville. So those are my suggestions for you. So the last one is if you want to ride alone. The other one is if you want some great ride in the mountains and meet up with some people.
See, that's all. I guess one of my biggest decision is how much dirt fire road. I mean, just easy fire road stuff, because I really haven't ridden off road much since my accident. Very few times, and starting to find myself getting nervous about it. So I need to get. Glad I did that BMW course earlier this year, but I'm like, I need to start practicing those skills, because I can quickly tell my confidence is not there.
All my suggestions are road rides.
Okay, so that's something that I am considering, is just doing straight road, and then picking up more this winter with the off-road stuff. When going slow in the cold, it's not that bad. Anybody else got anything? Any other suggestions for me or any other riders out there?
Well, there's stuff on the chat. People are talking about the Mississippi Hill Country, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good, that's an option. Personally, I have a couple of rides in mind, but I don't know if it applies to you. One is doing a ride in the Sierras around here, well, not too far from here, doing the mountain passes. There are 3 or 4 mountain passes that I can link together in one 3 to 5 day ride, and I had been planning to do that in the fall, but that doesn't look like it's quite going to happen. So maybe in the spring. I have to time it so that the snow is melted, but that would be a ride that's available to me, and that would be really beautiful. And in the spring and the early summer, the weather around here is very predictable. So that would be one thing. And the other thing that I would love to do, and that I've looked at, is doing some riding in the mountains in either Spain, Italy, or Switzerland.
Now, see, that's where that whole because I went there, right? I was like, well, I mean, if I'm going to take the trip that I really want, then the whole, well, how much is this really going to cost comes into play. I agree with you that those are on the top of my list, even though I have no idea how to speak the languages.
Yeah, well, you don't need to. I'm talking, actually, I've looked at a number of tours, and they range. It's not horrible. I think 3,500 maybe, not including airfare. and some costs are not included, but you could probably get through the whole trip for around $5,000 if you're thoughtful about it. And yeah, those are on my bucket list.
And don't worry about speaking any of the languages. You can get through everything.
Yeah,
I,
they speak
I,
English.
I remember my first my first trip to Italy. Spent 2 weeks in Italy. I knew grazie, prego, and toilet. That got me through every conversation I needed to have.
You're fluent. You're practically fluent.
Yeah. Oh, geez. All right, Chris, you got any ideas?
I'll second Tom's vote on the Loud Pipes meetup idea. That sounds pretty cool. I actually would love to do it myself. I just don't know that I could swing the time to meet the guys down there. And I'm sorry, did you say, was there a particular number of days that you've got available, or that's kind of to be determined?
Really, it would be Saturday to the following Sunday. Friday
okay.
night
So
after work, potentially to get on the road. I mean, it's wrap up work 4:30 on the road. After you eat with dinner with the family, 6:30.
Right.
Will your trailer take both of your bikes? Your new trailer?
I would have to change some of the configuration, but yes, it would.
All right. So given that much time, that changes things. Yeah. So either of my suggestions would work, and take both bikes and spend a few days doing dirt up in the mountains, and
that's
a
great
road ride.
Yeah.
That's a great.
But see, I would want,
idea.
if I'm doing dirt, just because of what's happened to me in the past, and the number of other close calls that I don't mention to anybody, I would prefer to have somebody there with me.
Yeah.
Because weird stuff happens in the dirt. For me at least, because I'm not that great of a rider, off-road and or on-road probably for that matter. But I would like to have somebody else on the dirt portions there. But yeah, I definitely have thought about like the Tellico Plains area. I mean, it's such a central location, and you can get a lot of cool stuff within an hour. So you can take an hour ride over to some place, kind of get off. Get ready to ride again, do a riding for about an hour, then take a break, and then do another hour ride back. That's half a day. So you could do that twice in a day, hit a couple of different areas, or go further before turning around. So, I mean, there's a lot of options there. There's a lot of things that I've never ridden that I want to ride, and it's kind of all up in that area, both off-road and on. But I'm hesitant to put a call out for, hey, let's put a ride together, because I don't even know if it's going to be feasible to do, so we'll see. But I'm trying to gauge on my options and come up with a short list, like the Loud Pipes guys that you guys were talking about. I looked earlier when they announced it on, places to stay and stuff like that, and it was penciled in there, but I was just trying to see, what are all the options? Because I don't get this opportunity much, but it just so happens that my new role that I've transferred into within the company I'm at, you have to use all your vacation by a certain time. And by the time I mapped out everything, I had a week left over. And that week I was like, well, I mean, I'm not going to take a week of vacation, sit around the house and do chores the entire time. Especially if my kids are being homeschooled, because we're not back in school yet, right? That's just not going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Gotcha. Well, if you're feeling like a real adventure, you could meet up with Brian Honeycutt and do the California to Alaska thing.
yeah, I said I wanted to ride, not to be killed. So
Gotcha.
Brian would ride me into the ground.
Fair enough.
I was even going to say, well, if you got a whole week, couple of iron butts, you'd be out in Larry's country, and let him take you around Northern California then.
Oh yeah.
And,
Well, I mean,
so
one of the
there
things,
you go.
one of the things that Larry and I have talked about since day 2 of the podcast of him being on the show, And it is still on the list of me trying to do one day is me to fly out to where he's at, rent a bike, and let's go up the coastal highway there, you know, and then drop the bike off. I'll fly back, and he would make his way back somehow. I mean, that's something that we've talked about on and off. I've checked flights, and I never could get the schedule. And honestly, if the COVID thing was a non-issue, like there was no COVID whatsoever, that would be exactly what I would have done. I'd have called Larry up and be like, "Hey, remember that ride? Let's put it on the books, because that's the one." I guess the stuff that's closer to me is always more available. I mean, I've been to Teleco Plains once with the March Moto Madness. A lot of those guys I saw got there early. They took both bikes in a trailer. They did all their street riding the days before the off-road stuff started. They swapped bikes and then did the off-road stuff, right? So that's already in the back of my head for the next time that comes around. There's a bunch of...
You and Larry could meet halfway, you know? You drive halfway across, he rides halfway across. You guys meet in Kansas. I heard there's a curve in Kansas. You know, it's...
Look, turning into the McDonald's is not a curve, okay?
I'm not going to Kansas, Toto.
Come on, Larry, just click your heels a couple times.
All right. Meet up in Wyoming or Utah, though.
Well, as I said, if any of our listeners, because whenever this just comes out, trust me, I will not have made a decision by then, or will be planning it. So feel free to write in. We want to get that information. Since we're really just going to turn this into we're almost at an hour. We're going to turn this just into a topic episode. Let's go ahead and bring up another one. Let's see. This is a good one. I don't know who threw this out here, but it's a really good one. And I don't necessarily have an answer to it. Everybody in the live stream, you guys can play along. What do you wish you knew about riding now that you didn't know when you started riding? So...
how expensive it gets?
Okay, there's one.
Yeah, well,
how addicting it can be.
Yeah, addicting. That's a good one. I mean, when you really look at it, I'm starting to ride, and you've got to buy a motorcycle. Should include you in, but just saying, just saying. Yeah. What else?
It really starts getting costly when you think about track days and setting up a bike and right.
Yeah. Yep.
Squeezing into leather suits.
Mm-hmm.
Right. or
so
not.
I'd say along that line, I would say the thing I would know when I started riding was that it's better to buy better gear as an investment rather than flipping through a lot of cheaper gear that barely lasts a year or two. That was one of my ahas.
Yeah.
Well, what about helmets, though? I mean, a cheap Bell helmet is going to be just as safe as a more expensive, Arai, right? So does that play out there? I will agree with you on everything but the helmet. I'll put it like that.
Yeah. So I agree. I wear an expensive helmet because it fits my head. But I would say on the helmets, I wish I knew that there were different head types and that manufacturers made their helmets to different head configurations and how to size it. That would have been huge because I think helmets are all very good. So comfort is the tremendous thing and trying to figure that out going through helmet after helmet.
Yeah, the multiple sized helmets. Let's see what
head
is,
shapes.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think something.
There was head shapes.
Yeah, trying to think of something. Larry, you got anything?
Yeah, so there are a few things that I thought about. The first one is kind of my motto, which I adopted as my motto, learning to ride my own ride. And, it took me quite a while to realize that often I wasn't doing that I was trying to, live up to or ride to somebody else's standard. And that got me in trouble a couple of times. So Since then, I've really paid attention to staying within my abilities and not going outside of that in order to, please somebody else. So that's one. The another one that took me a while to realize is that bigger is not necessarily better. And so, initially and early on, a lot of the advice that I got was basically geared towards getting bigger and larger displacement bikes that were better suited for trips and it was kind of people kind of belittled using smaller displacement bikes for trips, for instance. And came to realize that for me, at any rate, that wasn't true. That actually I could be quite comfortable on a small displacement bike doing a long trip. I used my, for instance, I did long trips in my Sportster, and I was perfectly happy. I put on a windscreen and a couple of saddlebags, and I was good to go. And I thoroughly enjoyed riding it on a long trip. So you don't need a big bike to do long trips. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. And so a couple of others, importance of earplugs. I initially the first couple of years I rode, I didn't use earplugs, and after running across some articles about the potential damaging effects of the wind noise when riding a bike, I started using earplugs, and I think that should be mandatory for anybody riding a motorcycle, is to make sure they use earplugs while they're riding. At least when you're riding on road. Off-road, maybe a different story. And for me, the last thing that I'll mention is that I was told that you don't necessarily have to be able to firmly plant your legs on the ground in order to select a bike. And for me, that's not true. For me, I really do feel more comfortable when I can firmly put my legs on the ground. When I had my BMW, my 700, I was tiptoeing it, and I never was comfortable on that bike. Now, I could have gotten a lower seat for one, or lowered the suspension, but and that probably would have helped or maybe done the trick. But for me, again, it's what I'm comfortable with and what makes me feel more secure on a bike, and that is making sure I can plant both feet on the ground. So those are some of the things that I didn't know when I started that I think I've learned after riding a while.
Good stuff. I think mine will be, and I'm going with when I started kind of riding again, not when I was younger. I think mine's going to be not caring about the image and all that stuff. I mean, I am in Cruiser Central. I mean, if you're not on a Harley or a Cruiser, you're in probably the bottom 20% of motorcycles in this area that you see daily out on the streets. And when I got into riding again, the first thing I picked up was a Cruiser, and quickly realized, this probably isn't the bike type for me. Now, there are Cruisers out there that I could probably be comfortable on and probably be perfectly happy riding. And there's some that I'm considering when I'm weighing my options on what I want to do next, as far as the next evolution of riding for me and what that turns into in the next 10 years, right? But, I don't care if a motorcycle's ugly, if it's comfortable and it fits and it does what I want it to do. As long as it doesn't have the MV Augusta logo on it, I'm interested. I don't care if what I wear is gear is not leathers and t-shirts and cool Harley leather jackets and jeans with fancy boots with all these things on them. I'm going to wear something that, and I came to this decision pretty quickly, that it's going to keep me safe, because the most important thing is that I make it home, not how I look. And I'm also pretty happy that I learned pretty quickly that just because it's hot doesn't mean you take off gear. You don't take off layers. You keep your layers and actually handle and manage the heat differently. So, those are probably the top ones for me. It sucks getting old. I'll say that.
Tell me about it.
I've learned
Tell me about
that.
Anything you want to add to that, Larry?
Yeah. So sucks getting old. I'm definitely, things were easier to do, especially off road when I was younger. That I still struggle
You're still a
with.
child. You have a long way to go.
Yeah, well,
Larry and I are well out in front of you.
yeah, yeah. But I'm paying for all the sins of my youth.
Yeah.
I definitely am with a lot of the issues that I'm having. It's all, well, you shouldn't have done that when you were a kid. It's like, yeah, you're telling me. So yeah, that's all that I have. Anybody got any others? I think everybody's gone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one other thought that I'll mention is that because I often see this, is that people will ride. They'll have helmets. They'll have riding jackets. They'll have riding shoes, boots, but they'll be wearing jeans.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important that you get riding pants that you either put over the jeans or that you wear separately, because they have padding, and their abrasion resistance is much greater than jeans. People who ride in jeans obviously have not slid on asphalt.
Well, I can tell you from the range experience of about a month ago that at a very slow speed, you can just, it doesn't take much to tear denim. Not at all. Now, there are the riding jeans that have the Kevlar woven into them.
Right.
And then the line jeans. That's, I'm sure, not what Larry's talking about. He's talking about a pair of Levi's. Lee's, Levi's, Wranglers, whatever. I'm curious to see, speaking of this, changing topics, shifting topics maybe. I'm curious to see, we have what is that name of that store? I can't think of the name of the store. They do the fire hose, Duluth.
Yeah,
Duluth Trading Company.
Duluth Trading. All right.
Yep.
So they have fire hose, supposed to be very resistant. They've also got a lot of other thinner material that is supposed to be, tear resistant and everything in there. I would wonder how they would do to the abrasions of an accident, because I know a lot of people get those. They get the Carhartts. They get those kind of materials, the thicker, canvasy stuff that's almost like the textile that I wear, to see how those do. And actually, my range, the pants I coach in, are a pair of Duluth Trading pants, but they've got the ripstop in them, and they're supposed to be abrasion resistant. And I mean, I've ridden to class in them before. I always feel like I'm getting away with something because I'm not really comfortable with it. But I would be interested for somebody to take all these types of jeans and do some drag test on them, see how they do.
I've always been curious about those. I'm a fan of Duluth, and yeah, they're fire hose pants. They do sell one that is actual fire hose material. It's a thick, heavy, canvasy type material. It's double material on the knees, and they have pockets for knees. I have heard of guys using them and have crashed, and they've done well in them. There's no hip pockets at all, but they're not made for motorcycles, but certainly I would put them well above standard blue jeans, but probably well below riding pants.
Well, that's an interesting question. As far as I can tell, if you want the pants to have a known amount of abrasion resistance, they have to have some kind of Kevlar type fabric in them. At least at the points where you're most likely to get the most abrasion. Other than that, I don't think any fabric is going to be abrasion resistant enough. At least that, in terms of motorcycling pants, all of the ones that are abrasion resistant have that Kevlar or Kevlar type fabric.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that
and it
fire
depends on what
hose is a similar material to the Kevlar.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
And it depends on what, if you are city riding, you're doing 25, 30, maybe even 35 miles an hour, perhaps with some knee armor, those might be okay. If you're getting out on the highway or anywhere where you're doing 50, 60 plus, no, absolutely not. I think you have to have a proper riding gene.
Yeah. All right, let's see.
Okie dokie.
Do we want to do paddock or save it for next week?
Well, I don't. We could do a little paddock. Chris,
right.
you have any Moto America stuff?
I mean, I could do just a quick little rundown, kind of highlights from last
I
weekend.
really wish I had like some kind of intro music for the paddock that I could play it at 2x speed and have it be like the mini, the mini. It's the mini, like the the little bitty welcome to the mini paddock, that kind of thing.
Actually, that'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool. So if you want, I can hit some highlights of the last round, which was again at Road America in Wisconsin for Moto America. Was good, right? Because that round, the first round at Road America was no spectators. But this time around, they did have spectators, so that I would have liked to have been there. Didn't get a chance to make it, but so evidently the racers enjoyed it a lot, right? Because that's a big part of it is, interacting with the fans and particularly being out on the track, before on the warm-up laps and then afterwards being able to wave to the fans and whatnot. So it's kind of cool that's going again. Some of the big news was, since he started on the Ducati Panigale V4R, right? Kyle Wyman's been trying to get his superbike sorted out for the superbike class. And he, as of end of last season, he was doing pretty good at Barber. If I'm not mistaken, he had made up to 4th or 5th or something like that, in the last couple of races. But this past weekend, he actually ended up taking 3rd in both races. So he was up on the podium 2 times. So that was really cool. What was interesting about the weekend was kind of how it started. It was like the 2nd or 3rd hot lap in Friday practice. He low-sided in one of the corners. He said he wasn't exactly sure what happened. Maybe he caught some part of the engine case or something on a bump on the inside of a turn, and he just low-sided. And I mean, the bike looked like it blew apart. The fairings and everything flew off. So his guys were pretty busy on Friday getting the bike back together. But they've got it back out on the track, and then to come up with 2 third-place results was pretty cool. Now partly it was due to some kind of attrition and whatnot. Race 1, Bobier actually won again. So that's continuing the streak. First round, he won the first 2 races. But what was interesting was so during this race number 1, Wyman actually got a nice pass on Tony Elias, and had it for I don't know what it was. It was a couple turns or something like that, and then Tony managed to pass him back. The problem was that there was a local caution when Tony did the pass again. And so after the race concluded, although it looked like Tony was in 3rd, it turned out he actually was given a 2-second penalty, and that's actually what put Wyman up on the podium.
Mm-hmm.
And Wyman had said, yeah, that's not exactly the way you want to get a 3rd place, but he said he's been working so hard, busting his butt, he would take it. He wasn't going to apologize to anybody. And then race number 2, again, kind of midway in the race, Wyman passed Elias for 4th. Actually, Bobier low-sided on a bump in the track, and that did put Wyman into 3rd. So that was kind of a bummer for Bobier. I mean, he was otherwise doing great. I mean, that guy's just phenomenal to watch him race. He's just been dominating. So he, if it wasn't for that mistake, he would have won that race as well. But still, so
what's he riding? Is he on a Kawasaki? What's he riding?
Yamaha. Bobier is still on the Yamaha. Yeah, the big long name. What is it now? It's the Monster Energy Yamaha Attack Performance something. Basically, Attack Performance is how they refer to it. But so that put Bobier out, but that did put Bobby Fong, who rides for Team Hammer, in the lead on the Suzuki, with Gagne, who is Bobier's partner, kind of chasing close behind. So that was interesting. They were out in the lead. They were running. That was the other interesting thing that weekend. Is again, Bobier broke the track record for superbikes. He got down into the 2 minute 10 second range. But during the races, they were running 2:11. So Fong and Gagne were up ahead, running 2:11s. Wyman, when he came in with his third, was running 2:13s. So still 2 seconds behind, but still not bad at all. And so for quite a while on the track, it was just a third place battle between Wyman, Elias, and Schultz. Again, Fong and Gagne up front. Bobby Fong was the 2019 Supersport champion, so it's kind of interesting to see. He's really gotten the hang of the Superbike. And if I'm not mistaken, he had ridden Superbikes before riding in the Supersport Championship last year. But then again, Elias, I don't know, it just has not been his season so far. Lap 8, Elias low-sided. Actually, I mean, honestly, you could kind of look at it as Schultz pushed him off the track. He and Schultz were kind of tussling. Schultz went on the inside, and it really looked like he stuffed the bike into the corner on a right-hander. And unfortunately, it just pushed Elias out off the track. He was okay. He got up and he actually got the bike running again and finished in 7th, which is pretty good, considering. But I actually had not heard if Schultz got any penalties or anything. I have to actually check that out. But anyway, so it was really, so covered all that. So basically the finish was Fong in first, Gagne second, Wyman third, like I said. Schultz was in 4th. Like I said, that might have been adjusted. I have to check. And then Tony Elias was in 7th. And then it actually was interesting, too. So Rocco Landers, who dominated Junior Cup last season, he basically has the #1 plate from last season, riding on the Kawasaki 400, was having some difficulties. The first round, Dominic Doyle won both races. But finally, the second race this past weekend, Rocco Landers got the first. And it turns out that the team found out he's been riding on a bike with a bent frame. So they got the frame sorted out, and all of a sudden Rocco Landers is back in the lead. So that was kind of interesting. But all in all, it was really, really good racing. I got to make use of my Live Plus subscription, so that was really cool. It is really nice. Like it's coverage all weekend from Friday practice all the way through. You can see everything. There's sometimes like a little bit of a delay before the stuff goes up, but so definitely worth having that. So next round coming is, bear with me, is going to be down at Road Atlanta, which is the end of this month, July 31st to August 2nd, Brazelton, Georgia. I really would like to go to that one. I've never been to Road Atlanta. The only snag right now is I was checking now with everything going on with COVID. New York State, Connecticut, and New Jersey have kind of banded together, and they've decided to put kind of restrictions on people traveling to certain states. Unfortunately, Georgia's on the no-no list. So currently, if I went to Georgia, when I came back, I would have to self-quarantine for 14 days, which is all kinds of restrictions. Like Gina and I would have to be separated and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
hear
I
that?
don't know.
You hear that, Tom? This is on you.
Yeah. We're
No,
not
Tom.
real good
Tom
down
was
here. Sorry.
Tom was wearing a mask, so it's not on Tom. But anyway, so
if you come down here, I'm only about an hour or so away from Atlanta. So.
All right, I will definitely keep that in mind. That'd be awesome if I do make it down. So I'm gonna keep an eye on things. Maybe Georgia will get lifted. Won't be an issue anymore. But so we'll see. So when that round comes around, I will update everybody.
Great. All right. Thanks a lot, Chris. So I have a couple things from the paddock. One thing to mention is that these guys, while they're waiting to start MotoGP racing, have to stay in shape and practice riding. And one of the things that they do is they ride motocross. And Dovizioso, unfortunately, had an accident riding motocross. He broke his collarbone. Just a couple, now it's 3 weeks before the start of the season. However, in all likelihood, he will be able to ride at the start of the season, but it probably won't be pain-free. It can be quite painful riding with a recently broken collarbone, but he is expected to be able to ride at the start of the season. So the other piece of news, I talked about silly season last time, and it's kind of coming to its conclusion. And silly season is the time of year when all of the contracts for riders are up for grabs, and riders change teams, and there's all sorts of gossip about who's going where. The season, as I said, is winding down, but there are two riders who have still not nailed down their contracts, and these are surprisingly Dovizioso with Ducati, and his contract has not been finalized. They're having issues around the amount of money that he'll receive. He had originally been slated to receive, I don't know, I think it was something like 3 million for the season, and Ducati is now trying to reduce the amount. They're complaining about the fact that there are going to be fewer races this season, and of course they've lost money because of the pandemic and so on, and so they want to pay him less, and he's not pleased with this, and so they have not finalized the contract. And there had been talk about Dovizioso going elsewhere, perhaps KTM. But the truth is that Dovizioso's best shot at being competitive is to stay with Ducati. He's done well with them, and he's still considered one of the major competitors for Marc Marquez. So the expectation is that he will eventually sign with Ducati, but it's not nailed down. And similarly, another major contract has not been nailed down, and that's with Valentino Rossi with Yamaha. Now, Valentino is contracted to ride this season, but next season he wasn't certain that he would be riding, and one of the conditions was that if he did ride next season, he would be not riding with the Yamaha factory team, but with the Petronas Yamaha team. And Yamaha promised him that he would get a factory bike, even though he was not on the factory team. However, Rossi is insisting that he bring his coterie with him of race directors and engineers and hangers-on and who knows what. Rossi wants to bring something like 20 people with him when he moves to Petronas. And this is a problem. There are all sorts of practical reasons why Petronas might balk at replacing their entire staff with Rossi's staff, or bringing in extra people, which would mean that they would have to discharge people that they already have there. So this is a point of contention. It's not clear how this is going to be resolved. Rossi's best shot, I think, if he's going to stay in MotoGP, is to ride for Yamaha, and that probably will happen. But these major riders, their contracts are not nailed down yet. Nonetheless, the season will be starting in a couple of weeks, and the racing will proceed almost weekly from there. So it's going to be a condensed but I think exciting season, and really looking forward to it. And that's it from the paddock.
All right. Well, good job, guys. As always,
And-
you wrapped it up wonderfully. What was that?
And music trailer. I was going to say we have our end music trailer now that cuts in.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's probably going to wrap us up for today. Again, special thanks to everybody out in the Throttle crew for helping out. We do love feedback, as I mentioned earlier, feedback at throttledpodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at Throttle Show, Instagram Throttle Show, Facebook Throttled Podcast. And we do broadcast live on most weekends, Sundays, 7:30 Central, 5:30 Pacific. And the link goes up on Facebook and Twitter 15 to 30 minutes before the show. And that's about it. If you do watch us on YouTube, and actually if you are interested and you miss a live show, but you actually want to see what all the lack of hubbub is about, you can just go to our Facebook page. All the links are there. And about 20 minutes after the show concludes, you can actually watch the live stream that happened. And go ahead and watch it there. If you would subscribe, like there, go out on iTunes. We ask that you to give us 5 stars on iTunes if you haven't done that. If we don't deserve 5 stars, if you would just write us a note, let us know why. We would really appreciate it. And that's all I got there. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for tonight. It was a wonderful conversation. And next week, I promise news articles and everything. I actually have one close to home that I need to remember to put in there to discuss. So, but you guys, well, who wants to sign off first?
Eeny,
I'll kick
meeny,
it off.
miny, mo. Go for it.
Yeah, I'll kick off. So stay safe, everybody. It was a good show. We haven't been together in a couple of weeks. And I'd also add in, Kevin, if anybody has any feedback, email us. Let us know if we're hitting the right topics or if there's anything else that we need to kick on here or likes,
Actually,
dislikes.
I'm glad
always
you
like
said
to
that,
hear
Tom,
things.
because I think I actually have email for you that I got.
Oh, Tom got
Hold
an
on.
email.
Oh,
Maybe.
fan
An
email. Ooh,
email
maybe.
from me or about me? Oh, man.
This is a request for Tom. Hey, Tom, I'm familiar with some good riding opportunities in the Carolinas, but I'm interested in camping and riding in the Georgia mountains. Will you make some recommendation for a nice location for a place to stay that would put us in an area with fun mounting road riding? Thanks if you are willing to share. If you give me an email address off air, I will forward this to you, and then you can respond to them. This is actually coming from a long-time listener, so I definitely want to get that back. When you said that, it popped in my head that this came in a few days ago.
All right. Yeah, I can respond. I have some good suggestions. Although I am not a camper. I don't sleep in the dirt, but I know of some places that they can go to. So, all right, cool. So yeah, with that, everybody have a good week. Get out there and ride. Stay safe.
Cool. All right. Well, it was awesome hanging out with everyone. It's good to see things are starting to get back to quasi-normal at least. Glad to hear you guys are out riding. Is really cool. And I forgot to mention World Superbike is also starting up in Jerez at the end of this month. So lots and lots of stuff going on. So looking forward to chatting with everyone next time. Everyone have a good week and enjoy whatever riding you're able to do.
Yeah, I second that. Ride safe, be safe, and ride your own ride, everybody. And we'll see you next week.
All right, everybody. Well, if you get out there and ride, try to stay cool, ride safe, and we'll see you all next time. Be safe, everybody. All right, good stuff, guys. Good stuff.
All right.